Mike, I wanted to ask you about partnerships that Group M has in the programmatic space, and you've announced a partnership with SpotX recently.
Mhm.
What does that mean, and what are sort of the values of working, with an SSP like SpotX in terms of the programmatic scenario that you guys have going on there?
Sure. Yeah, working with the supply side is a little bit always been a little bit interesting because it's always a second point of contact through our DSPs. But it's also one that's really important to us because they're that point of contact for our publishers, which is ultimately where we want to be doing our transactions and who we want to be engaged with. And so it's certainly not a new thing for us to be having these discussions, but what we've brought to bear with SpotX, we think is really unique, interesting for the marketplace, and just allows us to have a more transparent and direct relationship with those publishers that we care so much about. A lot of that has to do with the rate transparency that SpotX can provide us, as well as some rate efficiencies for Group M clients to give us a kind of increasingly leading edge when we transact and talk about CTV with these type of premium environments.
How big, or what's the sort of the state of CTV as a programmatic transaction for Group M, and where is it going?
Yeah, it's certainly our fastest growing. It's probably not yet the majority, but I'm fairly confident by next year that it will be.
What kind of inventory are you guys looking for? What are the opportunities for buying?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough landscape to navigate. There's quite a few different players and points of access to ultimately deliver, what for a consumer is just an ad on the screen. We can go through our MVPD partners. You can go directly with publishers who may deliver across a variety of devices and platforms. And so there are a few, or quite a lot of points of access at this stage. And, it's up to us as Group M and our agency counterparts to help our clients navigate those waters.
So, Mike, tell us, what's going on, programmatically in terms of innovation at Group M, and sort of some concerns that your clients have, things you're trying to solve, and how you see things developing in the new year.
Sure. Yeah, I would say in this area, the supply side is long been kind of a mystery for clients. And we've been working really hard over the past year and frankly before that to kind of provide a lot more clarity and a lot more insight into that second layer behind the DSP. We offer a fully disclosed and transparent model at Group M, but that's for a long time and sort of stopped once we hit the DSP, and we provide all of those costs. But there is that second layer of the exchange that for a long time we haven't really had a lot of insight in, and we've been working really hard to kind of build both the relationships and the data structures to bring that to clients in a much more significant way than we've ever been able to provide that through the line understanding of what are all the costs involved in them ultimately transacting and reaching the consumers they're looking to reach.
Yeah, and if you could just explain a little bit more about the need for transparency, what some more of those demands are, a little bit, if you could expand on demands of the buyers for transparency in the supply side.
Sure. Yeah, we see kind of it almost operates across a spectrum where some clients see it as a almost philosophical imperative that they need to understand and really sort of minimize the transactional costs. The ISBA study that came out earlier this year, is one that we fully supported. Group M was a large contributor to, but I think just again shined a light on the need for us really breaking these costs down and understanding where the money flows. And then for other clients, it's important, but it's really a means to an end, right? And so if we can bring buying advantage, not just with our DSP rates, not just with our publisher rates, but the rates that are in another layer of that transaction, ultimately that will help drive better performance and better outcomes for those advertisers where they're maybe a little less philosophically engaged with the issues around transparency, but do see it as, if there's leakage in the supply chain, that's ultimately costing them as the major contributor of funding into this, overall ecosystem.
Mike, I know there's many flavors of the programmatic marketplace, but could you kind of give us an overview on sort of, direct investment, private deals, open, kind of how that's changing or where it's going, or some trends that you see there?
Sure. In the CTV space, we've really tried to steer clients away and really have steered away from the open exchange. Frankly, we don't see it as ready yet. There's not enough verification tools in place. We've sort of seen a lot of the lack of transparency that we saw on the display side and have since really done a good job course correcting. But there's still a lot of catch up to do there in CTV. And so our strategy is really built around those direct publisher engagements, some of those MVPDs or device manufacturers that kind of have maybe a different angle or a different viewpoint or lens into where we're ultimately going to deliver. But we really see, again, CTV as a place for either programmatic guaranteed for those larger, bigger, splashier campaigns. And then there is still a place for very much a biddable solution, but really curating around deals to make sure we're reaching places that we feel confident is a good environment for our client investment to be going towards.